United States Army has a long and honorable history, from the first skirmishes at Lexington and Concord, to the Civil War, to the liberation of Nazi-controlled Europe. American soldiers are celebrated for their vigor and bravery in combat.
On 14 June 1775, the Second Continental Congress authorized the formation of the Continental Army as a means to unify the American colonies and to bolster the efforts of an emerging republic.
As we celebrate the United States Army's 246th birthday, we reflect on the courage and sacrifice of our soldiers to bring peace and to guarantee our nation's freedom.
Our Army heritage is a tapestry of rich design, deeply hued with the blood of soldiers and embroidered with acts of courage, duty, honor, love, and sacrifice. Today, we recall the history of our Army by the symbolic placement of 189 battle streamers on our Army flag.
The United States Army traces its origins to the Minutemen of New England and the Battle of Bunker Hill. Forged in the crucible of Valley Forge and honed through many battles, this fledgling army fulfilled the promise of the Declaration of Independence and enabled the 13 colonies to stand as a sovereign nation.
16 battle streamers of scarlet and white tell the story of the Army's achievements in the War for Independence. In 1812, still suffering under British enforced trade restrictions and other unsettled disputes from the American Revolution, the United States declared war on Britain for the second time. A professional standing army led by General Winfield Scott at Chippewa and General Andrew Jackson at New Orleans proved that America's soldiers could protect the nation from foreign invasion.
Remembering the War of 1812, the Army added 6 scarlet and white battle streamers.
"33 years later, following a period of border tensions, the United States went to war with Mexico. Names such as Cerro Gordo, Veracruz, and Chapultepec were added to the annals of the American Army and served as a training ground for the likes of Generals Zachary Taylor and Ulysses S. Grant.
We add 10 green and white battle streamers to the Army flag in remembrance.
The war between the states began on April of 1861, pitting brother against brother. After 4 years of industrialized warfare and more than 1 million casualties, the Union was restored and the nation took new strength from the memory of those who served and died. Five blue and gray battle streamers signify the heroism of our soldiers during this conflict that would forever shape our nation's future.
After approximately 100 years in service, the U.S. Army fought more than 1,000 battles in defense of settlers during the era of Western expansion. The efforts of units like the Buffalo Soldiers of the 10th Cavalry left an indelible imprint on our Army. Their efforts added 14 scarlet and black battle streamers to the Army flag.
In 1898, following the sinking of the USS Maine, our nation moved to fight on two fronts, Puerto Rico and the Philippines. This brief war with Spain, distinguished by the Rough Riders' charge at San Juan Hill, firmly established the United States as a defender of democracy, and the U.S. emerged as a world power.
For these campaigns, the Army added 3 battle streamers to her flag. On the 125th birthday, the Boxer Rebellion flared in China, and as a forecast of things to come, our Army fought side by side with soldiers from other nations. For its actions in China, the Army gained 3 yellow and blue battle streamers.
In 1899, the commitment of almost 100,000 soldiers was required during the Philippine insurrection. Their valor was rewarded with 11 blue and maroon battle streamers.
Closer to home, the border between the United States and Mexico became the arena for bandit raids. General John "Black Jack" Pershing was sent to capture the infamous Pancho Villa and his gang. This campaign was notable for the first motorized military action under then Second Lieutenant George Patton. For its Mexican service, the Army was awarded 1 yellow, blue, and green battle streamer.
In our 142nd year, following passage of the Selective Service Act, 4 million men were drafted and sent to Europe in defense of our allies. Despite fighting a grueling trench warfare that would see the loss of over 53,000 American soldiers, under the command of John Joseph Blackjack Pershing, American forces evolved into a modern, combat-tested army recognized as one of the best in the world. The 13 double rainbow streamers are dedicated to those heroes for their sacrifice in the war to end all wars.
After World War I, the United States Army returned to maintaining a small peacetime army. But following the events at Pearl Harbor, the United States went back onto the front lines around the globe. On June 6, 1944, the mightiest invasion force in history landed on the beaches of Normandy and thrust their way through to victory in Europe, ending Adolf Hitler's 1,000-year Reich. In the Pacific, General MacArthur's campaign, a relentless tightening of the cordon around Japan concluded the war. The Army remembers the heroes of the Second World War by adorning its flag with 38 battle streamers, 21 for the Pacific Theater, 16 for the European, African, Middle Eastern Theater, and 1 for the American Theater.
On June 25, 1950, just days after the Army's 175th birthday, the North Korean People's Army crossed the 38th parallel into the free nation of South Korea. Under the flag of the United Nations, American soldiers fought alongside forces from other nations to repel the North Korean and Chinese armies. We honor the courage and sacrifice of the soldiers of that war by adding 10 blue and white battle streamers to the Army flag.
From our 183rd to our 200th birthdays, Army forces were committed to the fight in Southeast Asia. On this tough jungle battleground, American soldiers served their country in the highest traditions of military service. In the aftermath of this conflict, the U.S. Army combined the active, guard, and reserve components into an all-volunteer, total force. For the actions of these Americans in Vietnam, 17 gold and scarlet campaign streamers were added to the Army flag.
From 1965 to 1966, American forces were engaged in Operation Power Pack in the Dominican Republic. Led by the famed 82nd Airborne Division, American soldiers helped end this civil war. For its actions in the Dominican Republic, one green and white streamer was awarded.
In our 208th year of service, the Army once again answered the call for freedom as elements of the 75th Ranger Regiment and the 82nd Airborne Division made a daring assault on the island of Grenada to restore democracy after the execution of their second Prime Minister. The resulting campaign restored pride in America's armed forces and resulted in the Goldwater-Nichols Act.
The Army's 169th streamer, Grenada 1983, represents their valor and heroism. In 1989, the Army again answered the call, this time to depose dictator Manuel Noriega and restore democracy to the Panamanian people in Operation Just Cause. For this action, the Army was awarded its 170th streamer.
Leading the Allied coalition to a swift and overwhelming victory, Army soldiers supplied the thunder of Operation Desert Storm. The courage and sacrifice of our Army's helicopters and armored divisions repelled a tyrant from the nation of Kuwait and resulted in the addition of 3 battle streamers to the Army flag.
In our 224th year of service, the United States Army and its NATO allies brought their combined military might to bear on the dictatorship of Serbia. Once again, the Army led the way to bring peace to an unstable region of the world.
For its actions in the Balkans, the Army was awarded its 174th and 175th streamers.
In our 227th year, the nation responded to the horrific events of September 11, 2001, by leading a coalition to root out terrorism and bring justice to those who attacked our country. In 2003, we again deployed to eliminate terrorism and bring freedom back to the Iraqi people.
In light of this sacrifice and dedicated service, we add one blue and yellow Global War on Terrorism streamer. For ongoing actions in support of Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, we proudly add 5 emerald green and yellow streamers and 7 scarlet and black Operation Iraqi Freedom streamers to the Army flag.
Our soldiers, past and present, have demonstrated dedication, commitment, and honor. They have and continue to serve their country without exception and refuse to accept defeat. It is through this commitment the United States Army has always persevered through adversity and remains the best trained and most combat tested in the world. Readiness has been and always will be the cornerstone of America's Army and the American soldier.